right, Brian.
Yes.
Sorry for the technical issues here, but I don't want to take away from what we're really here about, and that is in all of these Zoom chats, I'm hoping that there's some inspiration, some hope, and a little bit of information for people who are starting out and resuming and, resuming every single day, seriously sometimes. So if you would, Brian, could you take us back to where you were before Bright Line Eating? I understand that you started like January last year. Is that right? 2020?
Yep, January 7th. That's my birthday. Um, and I got started. Well, can I go back to why I got started?
Absolutely. You got it.
I had a very happy childhood. I had great parents that were perfect for me. I was a typical kid. I loved reading and learning and being outside. I was skinny as a rail. Everybody said, well, you're going to be a basketball because you're tall and skinny. And I was like, I hate basketball. I hate sports with a ball. I have no coordination. And then when I got to be a teen, it happens to everybody. I got bullied pretty bad. I was the president of the chess club in 7th grade, and that wasn't a very popular thing to be. And I got angry and bitter. And then eventually I found out that I had a real propensity for lifting weights. And suddenly at 8th grade, I started lifting weights, and I easily surpassed everybody. By the time I was in 9th grade, I was setting state records for my age, and I got into wrestling. I was a championship wrestler. I was in, tip-top shape. I blew away all the U.S. Marine Corps fitness tests.
Wow.
I could eat anything I wanted. I would actually do this. I would go out before school and buy a bag of Oreos and a half a gallon of chocolate milk and eat that for breakfast about 3 times a week.
Wait a minute. Say that again. And I'm sorry, my eyes are going crazy with this new camera. I don't know why.
I would 3 times a week before high school, I would go buy a bag of Oreos and a half a gallon of ice cream or a half a gallon of chocolate milk, and that would be breakfast.
Wow.
3 times a week. And then I would go to school and lift weights and do track and football and wrestling. I just work it off. But you can do that when you're 16, 17.
But wrestling, you usually have to make weight.
Well, we didn't have a heavyweight.
Oh, okay.
So I was the heavyweight, but I was 10 pounds underweight to make it. You had to weigh at least 185 pounds at the bottom end of, most of these guys weigh 300 pounds. I weighed 175, but I could throw them around because of my strength. But I still had to pork out all the time to try and gain weight. And then before weigh-in, I would drink about a gallon of water to make weight. And then I'd go shed it, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
And then I just got in this habit of eating whatever I wanted. My ancestors came from the southeastern U.S. and southern Appalachia, and you fried things. That's what you do, because you fried it in suet, and that's what you ate. And so, both of my parents grew up with that kind of a culinary background. You just fry things, and you make stuff with flour and sugar, and I had 2 brothers who were both athletes, and if you didn't get to the table before them, you didn't get much. There was plenty of food, but it was competitive.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I was number 11 out of 12 kids.
Yeah, whatever there is.
Eats the most.
Quick, here comes Noreen. Hurry up, eat. Don't leave her anything. And anyway, that's the pattern I set in my life. And then I eventually got married. I was going to go into, actually, I was working out to become Mr. Colorado. That was my goal. And I got injured in a football game, blew my knee out, and there's a 9-inch scar on my right knee. Well, it turns out the judges don't like Mr. Colorado to have 9-inch scars on his knee. So that knocked me out of that forever, which changed my life. That environment it's not a very moral environment. It's not ethical. A lot of steroids, drug use. So I wasn't in that anymore. But my whole teenage years, I I ended up being exposed to alcohol, drugs from the parents of friends when I
Wow.
was 14. And so I immediately found out that I really liked beer. 14. I mean, yeah, it made me puke my guts out, but what the heck? I liked the buzz. And so I'd go back and drink more. And by the time I was 15, I was going to bars and they wouldn't even card me. If you walk in and act like you know what you're doing, they leave you alone, at least in the 70s.
Plus, by then you're pretty built, right?
Yeah, I'm big and I'm tough and my battery's going dead, so let me plug it in real quick. Hold on. There's my ceiling. Okay.
I actually grew up in a community too that alcohol, number one, at that time, the drinking age was 18 for a short
Yeah.
time. And um, most seniors were legal to buy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And it was the same for me by the time I took everything. I got addicted to marijuana. People say it's not addictive, but for me it was. It was a gateway to other things like speed and barbiturates and LSD, and I was on everything. I went from a 4.0 student to barely graduating high school.
no.
But the thing is, I was so smart. I could pass the tests and ace them all, but I had no motivation to do the homework. So I ended up with a 1.8 grade point average my first 3 years of high school. And then my last year, through the prayers and intervention of my mom and dad and my brothers and some really good friends I got off the drugs and I straightened my life out. And I ended up with a 4.0 my senior year and the second highest ACT score in school. And I went on a 2-year mission from my church, and I really got
Wow. Really
morally, but I didn't change my eating habits.
So you're eating fast and eating hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Anything I could get.
So you had the sugar buzz with the Oreos and the milk. So did you continue that? And it was more like the sugar addiction, or
Yeah, it was mostly sugar for me. Yeah, I love sugar. I had to admit this to myself last year, and that brings me up to adulthood. You get into your 20s and it's okay. I worked in a warehouse hauling things around. I'm fine. But I got on blood pressure medicine when I was 24. Kind of inherited it. And then in my 30s, started putting on a little weight, but I was still going out playing football with the guys, blah, 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 lifting weights. Then I turned 40 and things didn't repair as quickly as they used to. And then I turned 50 and now I'm obese and everything hurts. And if I get hurt, it doesn't repair at all. And then in my 50s, I had probably 25 surgeries.
What? Wow.
25 surgeries in my 50s for various things that I had broken or worn out over the years from athletics and just things I had inherited, So now I'm 62 and I know my limits now.
Brian, just for the record, long ago I'd go by levels. So 62 is level 6, just to let you know. That's how I.
Okay, I'm level 6. I'm level 7 is I'll achieve masterhood.
Yeah, like
Yes. How old are you? I'm a master.
level 6. Get out of my way.
I'm a junior master. I'm going to use that. I'm stealing that. I'm taking credit.
Go ahead.
No, but like all of us here, we probably tried everything. I'm going to name some weight loss programs. I'm not going to criticize any of them because they probably have saved somebody's life at some point. There's Weight Watchers, there's Atkins, there's South Beach. I never did that. And there's Starving Yourself, and there's MyFitnessPal just to keep track of calories. And there's Optavia, which, okay, fast forward, I'm downstairs. I'm probably in my mid 50s. I'm here in Elko. And it turns out I was 320 pounds, the most I've ever weighed. In high school, I was 180, solid as a rock. In college, I'm 200, solid as a rock. I put on probably 60 pounds in about 5 years here. I'm working rotating shifts every week. It's stressful. I end up in a toxic work environment. Other stresses. Anyway, I was putting my socks on to get ready to go to work, and I thought I was having a heart attack from putting my socks on. And I just sat down on the bench at home, and I was like, "Oh God, don't let me die putting my socks on."
Yeah.
I mean, let me go out heroically or something. But how did you die? I was putting my socks on and had a heart attack. That's so embarrassing. In the next life, I didn't want to go there saying I had a heart attack putting my socks on. So seriously, I thought, I've got to do something. So I was mentioning this to my youngest daughter. And I said, I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do to help, because I'm just out of control. I binge all the time. And she said, Dad, you need to talk to my friend. She's a health coach. Bing, it just hit me. I said, okay. So I called her, and I got on the Optavia program, and I lost 90 pounds in 4 months. And I was fit, man. I got fit.
Like
I mean,
210, right?
Or
no, you're like 220 then, or 230?
I was about 230.
Okay.
And again, I was solid as a rock, man. For mid-50s, I looked like those cholesterol commercial guys diving in the pool,
Okay.
And all the cougars are looking at me go in,
We'll stick with that visual.
Okay, yeah. I was a level 5.5. Anyway, I was in good shape, but you know what? I could not sustain that program for me because it just wasn't enough food. And I was constantly, even worse, thinking about my next meal, my next fueling. I'm hungry, I'm starving. And I kept losing weight. And I realized, eventually I'm going to be 180 again. I'm going to be in the hospital. I was getting bulimic. I was like, how can I lose more weight? And I would binge and purge. And I've never done that before. I'm mid-50s, a man, binging and purging. That's uncommon. So I thought, okay, something's wrong.
So I just want to back up for a second.
Okay.
So you found yourself in this situation actually following the OptiFast. I haven't used that one. But is that mostly a liquid diet?
No, it's little packets of their nutritionally developed foodstuffs.
So you really needed more food, but so you're kind of making, I don't want to go into too much detail about that, but it just kind of surprised me. Like you said, here you're mid-level 5 and it's kind of taking a toll now.
It saved my life. Okay. I will always be grateful that it saved my life. And it taught me that I don't have to sit and eat all day long and graze. I don't have to do that. I have more dignity than that. It helped me be aware between meals that I don't have to eat. So it taught me some valuable skills, but again, I wasn't getting enough nutrition for my body type and my size. Since high school, my shoulders have broadened. I've grown 3 inches. So I'm bigger than I have. I'm taller and broader in the shoulders and chest than I ever have been. I can handle more weight, but it wasn't sustainable. So I got off it. I gained all my weight back and then some. So then about 3 years ago, I heard about bright line eating, and I didn't know where from, but I got the book on Kindle and I read it over about a week. And I thought, well, that's nice. It's science and I believe it, but sugar and flour, I'm not stopping that. Who does that?
Right.
No, that's stupid. I really thought what I was doing is just rationalizing my cowardice and not tackling this problem. So I put it away, didn't read it. Then 2 years go by, and through a book club I'm in on Facebook, I met this woman, Amy, and I just knew some things about her husband. He's a great guy. And she texted me and said, we need to do this. She goes, I'm addicted to flour and you're addicted to sugar. I know this because we talked in some groups. And I said, I got the book. I don't know. This is January 6th. And she said, no, we're doing this. We're going to save our lives. I was like, all right. Geez, like being married to somebody else. Nag, nag, nag. Anyway, so I got online, or I got on my Kindle again, and I read the book in an afternoon. I just plowed through it, and I went, this is me. I need to do this. And so I signed up that night, and I wrote her back and said, I signed up for the 14-day challenge. She goes, well, I was going to start in a couple of weeks. I said, no, don't give me that. No, 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 no.
We're not doing that.
This is your idea, baby. We're doing this. So I told Cindy, my wife, about it, and she told Rob, her husband, and we got signed up and started January 7th. And then we became what I call bleebs, Brightline buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've kept constant contact, and her husband supports her completely. My wife supports me. When we took the susceptibility quiz, which is fascinating,
Yeah.
I scored a 10. I knew I would, but I wrote the Brightline support people and I said, explain to me how these equations work. I said, I understand the proprietary equations that go into the quiz. You don't have to tell me the equation, but if you do, I'd love that. But they wouldn't. But I said, does it go on forever? Like somebody could be a 20, but you just truncate the result at 10 because 20 is meaningless. Or does it just go to 10 and stop? And they said, no, it basically truncates at 10. So when people say I'm an 11 or 12 or 15 or 100, maybe they are, 10 doesn't quite reflect how some of us actually react and live. My wife took the quiz.
Okay, I'm sorry. So
my wife is a 2.
You got a 10. Your wife's okay. Well, you know what? We have something in common, because at my 1 year, I had my husband take it, and he asked questions like, "What do you mean sneaking food?" Well, okay, he got a 1 just because there's no 0. And I think it's really important for someone to understand that you can be successful with Brightline eating, even when around you, people do not have the same susceptibility. Like, I'm in a household of 9 people with little grandchildren and all this stuff, and there are things all over the place that are what we'd call not my food.
Right.
And you know what? They don't bother me until they bother me. And it's really, it's at those moments that I'm like, oh my gosh, how can I do this long term? So what adjustments do you make in your house with 2 people with different susceptibility? Do you like have your stash and Cindy has her stash, or what?
That's a good question. Actually, I had her take the quiz and I told her I was a 10, and she looked at the question. She goes, oh, that makes perfect sense. And then I read her the email I got that described what a 10 does. And she goes, oh yeah, that's you. That's so you. And then she had more compassion for what it meant to be an addict. Now she's seen me, my tendency to be addicted to, let me back up again. I found out in my late level 4 that, I'm sorry I'm using that I also have bipolar disorder. Okay. So I'm a bipolar type 2, which means I have a job and a family and relationships. With bipolar 1, you're usually institutionalized because you can't function. I'm fortunate that way, but when I'm depressed, I just want to eat. Mm-hmm. When I'm hypomanic, I just want to eat. I'm depressed I hide, and I'm sorrowful, and I isolate, and I'm up late in the dark eating. When I'm hypomanic, my energy level goes skyrocket to the moon, and I can eat that bag of Oreos and that chocolate milk, and I don't even feel it, man. I'm still hungry. I want to go, 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 go. Now she's going, okay, I get this. But I looked at her 2 email, and I went, okay, I understand you better now. I do understand. I don't understand the 1. I'm so mad at your husband. I'm going to cut this call off now. No, I'm kidding. I don't understand being a 1 or a 2. I don't get it.
Well, I do think there are people with low numbers though that I don't know if they consider themselves an addict. I honestly don't consider myself an addict, but I may be in denial. I come from really like eating fast, bountiful helpings. My husband's a great cook, so always seconds or thirds. Not blaming him, just that was the nature of the beast. I
Yeah.
would be really doing that. And so coming to grips with that is, so how do you deal with it? Like, so you've got the bipolar going on. So how do you adjust for that? How do you, like, it's not just enough to write it down if you're like really having a moment here that you're in this hyper mode or whatever. I'm not sure. What do you do? Do you have kind of a backup plan when you're in that moment?
I do. I have Cindy,
Okay.
but I have to be honest with her. I can't hide things and isolate. And let me back up. There's addiction and there's dependence.
Hmm.
Addiction is usually, if you don't get it, you're going to die, like heroin. You're going to have physiological demands placed on you that could seriously affect your health. So they ease people off heroin with other things. Um, I was on opioids because of surgery I had. They were legal. This is just maybe 5 years ago, but I was on them for a year and I got addicted. You can't just stop taking opioids. You
Mm-hmm.
can die. You can have seizures and die. And so they eased me off, and it was going to take a year to get off of them. I was taking 2 pills every 6 hours for pain,
Oh,
and over several months, they've eased me down to a quarter pill a day,
wow.
which is 1/32 the dose for pain. And one night at 2 in the morning at work, I'm walking around the parking lot going, why am I doing this? I can't even drive a car because it's still in my system. I'm DUI even though I'm functioning. So I just said a prayer to my God and I poured him out in the parking lot and I crushed him underfoot and I said, I'm free, but you got to help me. And then for 10 days, I went through withdrawal. I was puking. I had hallucinations. I had tremors.
Mm.
I was nauseated at both ends, if you know what I'm saying.
Well,
And
we
it
won't
was,
go there.
that's addiction. That's withdrawal from addiction. But dependence, a lot of us are dependent on food for emotions,
Right.
stress, boredom. We're not going to die if we eat bright line guidelines. We're not going to, like you would if you quit taking drugs. But we're dependent, and it's hard mentally. We
Hmm.
get a little hungry and we say, oh,
Oh, I
I'm going
know.
to freak out. We panic.
I want to say, you just mentioned something I think that's very important. I asked you what your backup is, and you said Cindy. And and I think it's kind of interesting because when I started on the Bright Line eating journey, never before, as in never before, would I ever have said to my husband, I just had something that, and I told him that I'm going to tell you, and like, don't think this is crazy. I'm going to tell you if I've eaten something that, is really not on the plan. Now,
Right.
I don't tell him about a bite, lick, or taste. I don't really have a problem with that too much. Not now, knock on wood, but let's say it's Christmas and there's somebody brings something over. If I had something, I will say I had a piece of
Okay.
whatever. And so it has made me accountable. And I think that you could have that same interaction with your belief.
Hmm.
Like you have Amy, I have
Yeah.
Tan. I mean,
I
I
have a,
could call her up and say, Tanlin, I'm having a moment here.
yeah.
So,
Can I ask you a question?
sure.
Has your husband being a one, has he come closer to understanding your score on the scale? Or did you just accept that you are that?
I think that we've had conversations about it now that I'm wrapping my brain around the difference here, where he could say, oh, I only had breakfast. I'm like, what? So, who does that?
I
You know,
forgot to eat.
I mean, like, not, just, but yeah, I think that it has been helpful. It's not 100%, but I honestly didn't even tell him for 3 weeks because I didn't want to be talked out of it.
Right.
And I just couldn't publicly say I'm doing something anymore. Because
Right.
I tried so many times. But then when I was in the fourth week, I was all in. And like I said, he's a phenomenal cook. And we have all these kids and stuff in the house. And I just would say, I'm packing my breakfast and lunch anyway. He's
Yeah.
making a protein. He normally cooks dinner. And, we go from there. Or I'll pick
I
up or something. But go ahead.
no. You're saying some things that remind me of my situation because before I got married, you got to know my mom was the best cook in the world.
Hmm.
When I got married, I found out she was the second best cook in the world. And Cindy's phenomenal. I mean, she can do anything, and everything tastes good, even if it's not well, except sweet potatoes. I hate those. I try them every year. Why do I try them? It's a joke in our family. They're like, "Don't do that again, Dad. Please don't do that."
So,
So, but she does understand, and I do have her to fall back on, but I have to be honest with her. I cannot hide anything.
right.
And same way with Amy. Amy texted me the other day. She goes, "I'm having an issue. I'm struggling right now with my trigger food." And I was like, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I'm struggling with mine right now. I'm thinking about driving out and picking up something that I want to eat, making that trip to the store. And it was perfect timing. So we talk each other down and we're okay. I
Great.
had to tell Cindy, look, frankly, I need your help. Because she would have a jar of little goodies she could eat.
Yeah.
And seriously, they would go bad before she would finish them all.
I know this
Who
story.
does that?
My husband. Okay.
I know.
Okay.
So I
Wait,
told
wait,
her, I said,
wait.
you've
We,
got
we,
to.
we have similar things, and I think it's amazing because this is a beautiful thing. But so your motivation was you had some health issues, but you got into this. But so what were the tools that really helped you accomplish? I mean, you've lost how many pounds now from
Well, I had to resume because I did so well. I lost about 70 pounds on Brightline. And my third week into the Brightline program, we had a family trip to Disneyland. And we all went out there, and I had lost about 15 or 20 pounds by then. But Disneyland has nothing you can eat. They don't care about your health, they care about being the happiest place on earth. Damn it. I mean, that's the kind of place it is. It's just,
There's probably something, but we won't.
well, it turns out there is, but you have to do your homework first. And it's just like any other place. So I did my homework and I found they had this. Well, I took food with me in my backpack,
Good.
and that was my two meals that I'd eat there. And then the third one, I'll either leave the park and go eat because there was a Denny's restaurant and I could get a salad right out the park gate, or it turns out they have a couple places that if you go there, and I have never feared eating out because every single time I lie to the server and I say, look, doctor's orders, I have to have something like this. Can you do that for me? And I'll order baked tilapia and steamed veggies.
Oh,
And they'll say, oh, yeah, we could do that for you. And I say, it's not on the menu, that meal, but charge me something and I'll pay you for it. And they're always reasonable. And then I give them a big tip because, they went out of their way.
wow.
And
So, I've never been that specific, but that's a great idea.
well,
Let
and sometimes it's salmon or it'll be a small steak or chicken, or
Mhm.
they'll make it for you because there's so many people that have health conditions.
Yes.
And I just lie and say it's doctor's orders. I'm not going to say, I'm on this program called Bradley Eating and blah, blah, blah. They don't want to know.
Well, I
So,
think that's great. So your tool is basically speaking out and do your homework.
yes. Yeah. Do your homework beforehand and be honest with the people closest to you. You've got to have a bright line buddy that you can depend on and who can depend on you, and someone close in your family or your home that will support you, even if they don't completely understand your eating position, like your husband or my wife. They're never going to be that way, but they accept that we are, and they'll help.
Had a
I
comment
am
here that Paul said this, it is your doctor's orders. It's Dr. Susan's orders.
Dr. Yeah, Dr. Thompson said I can't do that. Yeah, I'm gonna steal that too and take credit for it.
Absolutely. No, that's really true. So did you and Amy, did you write down or tell each other what you were going to eat the next day?
We have done that. When we first started, yeah, we did every meal. We texted each other exactly what we ate every meal. And my wife was here watching me prepare it for the next day, so she knew what I was doing. I'm not hiding anything. I have nothing to hide.
Right.
And so now Amy and I usually just report we were bright this meal, bright for the day. We know what we're doing now, even though we're both resuming. This ain't our first rodeo with Brightline. So it's actually easier this time.
And I was just going to say, it's not your first rodeo. This is speaking to me that you have a little bit more time in it than I do, I believe. But did you say 2020 that you started?
Yeah, last year, that's
Oh,
just been about a year.
I actually have more time in it. You've probably just lost more weight. But I can't imagine doing something else at this point, even
Mm-mm.
though I've had my moments. I can't. So you're saying it's not your first rodeo, you come back
Oh,
because you
yeah.
know what works. And what you said when we talked the other day, it's like if you work the program, it works. It's the program
I,
works, then you work it. And
I get really,
that's the
I have
tricky
to,
part, not modifying it by
yeah.
beyond too much. I do have a cup of coffee in the morning with creamer.
Well, there's certain things that I can do. I have a little drink mix in my water, and it doesn't trigger me at all. Um, some people it does. I have another friend who can't do that.
Hmm.
It just makes her go nuts with sugar cravings. Um, but I can't snack. If I start to snack, I'm done for the day. I'm just grazing all day. So I can't do it.
I ask you, Brian, because one thing you're known for is your wit and wisdom in these epiphanies. So I know you said that you had some kind of surgery today because you asked me, like, should I take the Band-Aid off just before this? And I'm like, you just do whatever you want. And I thought, have you found an epiphany just in, what you're doing today? I mean,
Ah,
because I'm picturing you do.
I I had one. I it was while you and I were preparing for the call. Actually, we were texting back and forth, and I just had a very I okay. When I was a teenager in the '70s, I wore no shirt and my Daisy Duke jeans and my flip flops, which we called thongs back then, but you can't say that now.
Gosh, let's.
Flip flops, and so I wore those every day, and I never wore a shirt, no hat, nothing. I had long hair, but I got sunburned all the time, tan, bronze god type tan, and then I grew up and got into my 50s and got bald, and I never wore a hat because I hate hats. So I started getting these little sore spots on my head. And I thought, well, I better go to a dermatologist. So I started going every year, and she said, oh, you've got actinic keratoses, which are precancerous sun damage spots. So she freezes them off every time. A couple months ago, I had an itch on my ear, right here, and I scratch it, and it came away bloody. I thought, I got a scab. I cut myself shaving on my ear. How does that happen? But it
Mm.
wouldn't heal, and I'm not diabetic. So a couple months go by, and it's not healing. And finally, I went to the doctor again, and she looked at it and she said, I'm going to do a biopsy on that. Ooh. So she did it, and they got back to me almost right away, which is a bad sign, and said, you have basal cell carcinoma on your ear, and it needs to come out. So we scheduled an appointment for 4 days later.
Wow.
Yeah. And I have to drive to Salt Lake City, which is about 4 hours to the doctor's office and back in the same day. So I went over there for surgery, and the surgeon looked at it, He said, yeah, it's about the size of a penny on your ear. It wraps around your ear. And I was like, is that big? He goes, well, it's not small for an ear. If it was on your back or something, it'd be different. But he said, you caught it early, so we'll take a penny-sized chunk out of your ear, and you'll look like Evander Holyfield. And I said, oh, that's great. I'll do that. And but he said, you'd be surprised that the people who come in here, they wait 20, 30 years with this problem, and now we're taking their whole ear off, or we're
Ooh,
removing their nose, or an eyelid and their eye. He said, we remove body parts all the time because they didn't take it seriously. So I was thinking, talking to you, I was thinking, you know what? All the stuff I did when I was a teenager caught up to me. I didn't know any better at the time. Nobody did.
right,
Back then, it was you put baby oil on to
right.
protect from the sun. That's a magnifying glass, for heaven's sake. Well, now I'm paying for it. But, live and learn. So all the food habits I developed over all those years, I paid for later. It's the same thing. And that was my epiphany. So now what do? Now we're scrambling to get over the poor choices we made earlier in life. I have a propensity as a fair-skinned person to get sunburned, but I didn't take it seriously. All of us have a propensity either for weight gain or food dependence or something. And that's why we're here. And
Yeah.
so now we need to take care of these things and excise the things from our lives that are causing the problems. If we don't, we're going to lose.
You know what, Brian? That brings me to it's one of the most profound statements you made was your legacy post as far as that epiphany. When you went out, you found the homestead, I believe.
With my grandparents' homestead, he built it.
Yeah. And I thought that was just such a beautiful thought as far as that was the foundation. We all have our foundations. We
Yeah.
have foundations for me, at the table, whoever eats the fastest eats the most. I heard that, with um, really, that's what I would hear every night, jokingly, but we were all grabbing for food, and it was that quick, fast, eat fast. The more you eat, and it was a habit. It was that foundation. And so now to back away from that, even with bright line eating, I have to tell myself, whoa, Nellie, there's plenty of food here. Just
Yeah.
enjoy it. Because it's beautiful food. Just enjoy it.
I
And
had 6 ounces of grapes today at lunch, and I looked at them, and there's not very many. And I'm thinking to myself, how long can I make these last? And so I put a grape in my mouth, and I bit it, and I just let the juice run all over my tongue and my teeth and down my throat. And I thought, it was like, that is so good. That
yeah,
is the sweetness that I'm craving right now. I don't need something from the break room at work.
yeah.
I got a note here. I'll tell you in a minute. I can have a grape and be happy. And so it took me 10 minutes to eat my 6 ounces of grapes, and I chewed each one until it was gone.
I know
And I'm not,
somebody who has them from the freezer every day, and she said it's like candy.
like sucking on it until it warms up and then chew it.
Yeah,
Hey,
there you go.
I might try that.
Question for you, if you don't mind, where in Colorado do you live?
Well, I don't live there now. I grew up there in the Denver area,
Okay.
Arvada, and I lived in Colorado Springs and Greeley.
Oh,
My ancestors were from southern Colorado, down in the valley.
I have to shout out here to Paul. He said he's down 75 pounds since May of maintenance since September 2018. Wow, great job. That's amazing.
And the beard too, man.
Yeah,
Now you don't look like Santa Claus anymore.
I think that, oh, was that Brad Pitt? Linda was wondering. That was Brian right here. So anyway, we're getting close to the end, and I know there's somebody here tonight who I don't know if they've given up hope or if they've just started or if they want to resume. What would you say to someone who's sitting on the edge and just wondering, can I do this? Should I do this? What would you tell them?
That's a great question. Amy and I talked about this. Cindy and I talked about it. Rob and Amy talked about it. Um, one of my gifts, I guess I have, one of my daughters told me this, that despite having found out that I've been bipolar my whole life and going through these cycles of suicidal depression and angry, aggressive mania, I keep going every day. I get up and go every day. I will say, I took off in my car one night when we lived in Tennessee and I headed north into Kentucky to kill myself. And I was listening to music and a song came on by Santana called Hold On. And if you read the lyrics, they don't mean much. But to me at that moment, it was like a conversation from God saying, don't do it. Just hold on one more day and I'll be there. And so that song is my go-to song. And I find that I have go-to people, Cindy. I have go-to songs. I have go-to movies, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Just makes me happy. And I go to those things. I go to my God and the scriptures. But just get up and do it again tomorrow. I fell off the wagon at big time when I lost 70 pounds and I gained much of it back. But this week I've lost, in 4 days of resuming, 13 pounds.
Wow.
Because you know what? Yeah, it's mostly water weight, but water weight kills people.
Right.
Stroke, heart attack, you name it, aneurysms. I don't want water weight. Um, I'm back in the saddle, and it's just one day at a time. And I had one day when it wasn't even that. And my bleeb and I had to text each other and say, hey, one meal, just one meal. And then again, hey, it's not going to work. I need to sit in my chair and not get up and go in the kitchen. Help me. And so kitchen's off limits,
You
you
know,
know.
something, there's, for me, it's called integrity. Start feeling that I did it. I can put my head on the pillow and say, I did it. I did it
Yeah.
today.
You know, when I was working out to become Mr. Colorado, it was a lot of hard days of pumping weights when everybody else was playing and goofing off. And I'm in the weight room sometimes by myself working out, and I was sore and I was sweaty and I was tired, and I gave up a lot of free time, and I got to the point where I was setting weightlifting records. That's what it took, though, was that dedication. And then I was in martial arts and kung fu, and it took practicing at home, not just class, but practicing at home alone when nobody's there to earn my belts. And now I find with Brightline, it's the same way. I want to be a black belt in Brightline.
Yeah.
I want to be a lifer. I
That
want to be one of
reminds
these
me,
people that looks back and say, I've held it off now for 10 years and I'm at level 7, baby.
you know what, it really reminds me when you said you're doing the work not just in the gym, but you're doing it at home. It reminds me of when I got started with Bright Line Eating. I wasn't too far into it. And like I said, we have 5 grandchildren here in our home. And they had just started living with us. And I would always say, because they wanted to get away from the table, they wanted to do all these things, calisthenics, while we're having dinner. And I'm like, no, you practice here. So when you go to your friends, you'll know how to act. When you
Yeah.
practice here, you're going to go to school and you'll know how to act. Well, one day we went to Olive Garden, and it was just me and the girls. It was 5 girls. And we went to the Olive Garden. I was ready to order, and the youngest was constantly getting off her chair. And her oldest sister, who was like 13, said, Charlie, you don't do that. You remember, you practiced at home so you know how to act. And I thought, what? Number one, she's listened, to what
Yeah.
I was saying. But number two, it hit me like a bullet because I'm like, what was I planning to order? I've been practicing at home. I know how to act when I'm in a restaurant. I don't have to make any deals with anybody in my head.
All
I
right.
don't have to make any deals. I know how to act because I practiced at home. I weigh at home. I know how many vegetables are on a plate. And it's just like, wow, that was my epiphany with Brian time. Only it came through me. And it was just so funny. Those words that I had uttered came right back at me.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that teaches me practicing at home. I do know how to act. We all know how to act.
Mhm.
There's somebody, somebody young, like 20 years old, got on the main Brightline group and said, should I start? Am I too young for this? I'm like, no,
Do it now.
I wish I had known about this when I was 40,
Because I
and
do
maybe,
think it's a lifelong sustainable program, and
yeah. And if you're 20 and you're obese, you need to start now. And then another lady got on and she said, I don't remember her name. She said, I'm 72. Is it too late for me to start? I was like, no, when are you going to start?
yeah,
You're level 7. You
levels,
need to start now. And
right.
I'm thinking, and the rest of, if you're resuming, when are you going to start? I
Yeah.
mean,
Well,
how
just,
many times have we waited to start? Too
hey,
many. We're done. We're done waiting. It's time to knock that off.
yeah,
Knock the crap. When I was on my church mission, my mission president, this married man with kids, um, we were forbidden to say things like snot and crap because those were vulgar words to him, and he didn't want us doing that. So we cleaned up our language. I mean, we weren't cussing or anything, but even stuff that was just like innocent. We couldn't call children kids. We had to call them children. Kids are goats. I was like, okay, that's a little too much, but still, I'll do it. Well, I called him one time on the phone because I was having some behavioral issues, and I was bipolar and didn't know it, but I was just kind of being a butthead. Oh, I couldn't say that either.
right.
But he looked at me and he goes, "Hey, cut the crap." Yeah, well, that shook me to the bone, man. I went, President said, cut the crap. I better cut the crap. So I'm saying to myself and everybody here, cut the crap. It's time to resume and just get on the program. And it's not a diet. It's really not even a plan. It's just eating right.
Well, and you know what? Going back to your epiphany, as far as that story about finding the stones in the homestead, you also said it was time to stop that past
Yeah.
foundation that was laid for your eating habits. You had family members who had died of early heart attacks, and it was like it's time to leave a better legacy. And I agree. I totally agree because if not me, who?
Who?
As far as to show the way. And we just
One of the,
have the benefit and the blessing of having this program. And I really believe in it.
when I, before I started Brightline, the first time back, well, way back, a year and a half ago, I weighed so much that I couldn't play with my grandkids. They wanted to play chase. One of them, a little boy, his love language is being chased. He loves that. I couldn't do it because it would wear me out. And I felt like I was having a heart attack. So I was the grandpa who didn't do anything. The other one owns a ranch. Um, so I'm the one who played card games until it wore me out. And
Mhm.
now I play chase, man. We go to their house and I chase him all over that house. And then he chases me back. And we go, 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 go. And I'm the grandpa that plays chase.
Wow.
The other grandpa has horses, and that's good too.
Yes.
But I'm the grandpa that I'm the one that gets down on the floor and wrestles around with him, and I'll play pretty pretty princess if I have to because I always win. So
That's
that's
very
the legacy. That's what we need to think about: is our actions down the road affect the people that love us.
well, Brian, we've got to wrap this up. And before I do want to mention if you're watching this on the video, because this is being recorded, I included your bite, licks, and taste chart,
Mm-hmm.
and that is fantastic to give you a visual and the numbers behind what one peanut will be adding up to, you know, a third of a pound or something in a year. And I'm like, "Ooh, that puts a different perspective into things, you know."
And when we eat, usually when we have one little thing like that, that's not the only thing that day that we did. We're piecing here and there, and you end up with about 150, 200 extra calories a day. We don't count calories, but your body does.
Right.
And so eventually
But again,
you're going to have this. Don't do it.
between that and just the feeling of not going to bed with integrity, to me is um, there's a question: is where is that chart? It's going to be on the introduction when you watch the video. So, or starting out bright, come and join the private group, and you'll
Yes.
find it there. So,
Hey, I got out of one of my other groups, larger Brightline groups, so I could be more active in this one because
great.
it's more intimate and we're more committed to things, I think.
Yeah.
In closing, I want to say, you know, and if anybody wants to private message me on Facebook, I'm happy to talk. I talk all the time. And so, no, really, I do, really. But I'm happy to talk about Brightline or, you know, where we lived in Colorado, things like that. What it's like to look like Brad Pitt all the time. I just can't keep them off of me.
I mean,
You know, I know somehow they do keep away from me. I don't know how they do it, but they
I
do.
don't know. Anyway, Brian, I mean, I'll give you the last word, but we're going to have to sign off.
Go.
Any last words?
No, thank you for doing this.
Oh, thanks for being on here, and to everybody who came. Just I echo everything that I see in comments to Brian's Epiphanies. You know, you make us laugh. You make us think. You're really a pleasure to be talking with today, just to have this kind of conversation, real life stuff, you know.
Thanks.
And what you said too about leaving a legacy, or don't wait to get things fixed.
No.
Don't wait
No.
to level 9, you know.
Yep. Cut the crap.
Get the crap. So thanks everybody for coming, and I'm going to close. Oh, next week we have Lydia Pattison, and she is, I believe, from Australia. She is phenomenal. She is a emotional eating coach. So that's going to be great. So join us
Yeah.
this week and every week. So I'm going to close as I've been closing. Good night, stay bright, and don't let the bed bugs bite. Good night, everybody.